This video is brought to you by GiveWell. As we've covered in previous videos, the central Sahel region in West Africa has been rocked by a wave of coups in the last couple of years, with military juntas now controlling each of Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali. Extreme violence and jihadism are rampant throughout the region, and anti-French sentiment is rising. But the three central Sahel states have now formed a new bloc called the Alliance of Sahel States, or AES, with AES members signing a declaration towards a confederation that's united in the political domain and in the monetary domain. So, could a new country soon be formed in Africa? In this video, we'll take a look at what's happening in the Sahel states, why a new alliance has been formed, and whether it can actually work. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. Firstly, let's have a look at what's happening in the region. For more than 5 years, the central Sahel countries, that's Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso, have seen a devastating war unfold between government forces and armed Islamist groups, including those affiliated with Al-Qaeda and Islamic State in the Greater Sahara. In Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso, more than 10,000 people were killed in armed conflict in 2022, and an estimated 2.7 million people are internally displaced in the region. The region has been beset by sieges, blockades, kidnappings, bombings and ethnic massacres, as well as the destruction of places of worship, health centres, food reserves, water services and other infrastructure. This rampant violence has contributed to serious political instability in the region in recent years. Mali and Burkina Faso have both experienced 2 military coups since 2020, and Niger also succumbed to a coup in July this year. And as the Sahel security situation worsens, the junta's military campaigns have also become more extreme. Burkina Faso has pursued a strategy of total war against jihadists, recruiting tens of thousands of volunteer civilians into self-defense militias. Meanwhile, Niger's military ruler, Abdurrahman Chiani, scrapped the country's security agreements with the EU and kicked out around 130 Europeans from the EU Cap Sahel civilian mission, on top of 1,500 French troops. And the UN's 10-year-long peacekeeping mission officially withdrew from Mali on Monday, after its military junta demanded the departure of the mission back in June. So, why have Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso formed a new alliance? Well, the three ruling juntas have been making decisions in tandem for a while now, and hope to become a formal confederation with shared security, political and monetary aims. So, with this in mind, let's have a look into 3 main reasons for the alliance. Number 1, security, number 2, legitimacy, and number 3, ideological overlap. First, security. The official AES alliance began in September, when the 3 states signed a mutual defence pact called the Liptako-Goma Charter, named after the vast region where their borders meet, home to 45% of the country's combined population. According to the pact, if one of the countries is attacked, the other signatories are bound to step in, including by the use of armed force to restore and ensure security. The 3 states have pledged to help each other fight extremist violence across their borders, which is particularly challenging in areas of the Sahel, like forests, which have become hideouts for criminal gangs and bandits. Second, legitimacy. The idea of a confederation between Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger is largely an attempt to legitimise their military governments and show other nations that they aren't isolated internationally. The 3 states were suspended from regional bloc ECOWAS after falling under military rule, and ECOWAS has also heavily sanctioned Niger to try and prevent further coups. However, ECOWAS has refused to recognise the AES, which Chairman and Nigerian President Bola Tinubu has called a phantom pushback alliance that seeks to divert attention from our mutual quest for democracy and good governance. Third, ideological overlap. The 3 states have long had issues with France, their former colonial power, and have now all left the G5 Sahel Joint Force, a body set up in 2014 to fight extremism in West Africa that they see as under French influence. Anti-French sentiment has soared across the region in recent years, largely due to France's military shortcomings in the Sahel through the 2010s. In 2017, the UN Security Council adopted a French initiative to fund a €50 million counter-terrorism task force to be deployed in the Sahel, made up of 4,000 French soldiers and another 6,000 from the UN's peacekeeping mission. However, Operation Barkhane, as it became known, failed to fully address the region's security crisis, and French troops withdrew from Mali in 2022 after the Malian government replaced them with Russia's infamous Wagner Group. This leads on to another bit of ideological overlap, which is that all three states want closer collaboration with Russia. The three military juntas have welcomed Russian officials to the Sahel over the past few months, and following Mali and Burkina Faso, Niger has hinted at the possibility of formal ties with Moscow, which doesn't currently have an embassy or military presence in Niger. The Kremlin has increased its commercial and military activities in Africa recently, and has taken well to the idea of a Sahel confederation. Russia has also stated its satisfaction with the creation of the AES, which it sees as an ideal framework for cooperation between the Russian Federation and the Sahel states. So, Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali might have some shared interests, but can a confederation actually work in practice? Well, on the security front, the consensus among well-versed analysts is that the AES alone doesn't have the resources to fight Islamist extremism in the region, given that France struggled to do so and no state has a functioning air force. On the economic front, this new union could be good news if it convinces ECOWAS to lift sanctions on Niger, which would help them access aid. But at the moment, ECOWAS has said that they won't consider lifting sanctions until they see progress towards civilian rule. The three governments also announced their intention in November to create a joint stabilisation fund and investment bank. But as yet, there are no clear details of how this could work. And a couple of days ago, Niger's military leader even announced that they were looking at a monetary union. Again, while we don't really have any details, this is probably more a reflection of their antipathy to the French than anything else. For context, while ECOWAS says it wants to launch a new common currency, the ECO, by 2027, at the moment many West African states, including Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso, use the CFA franc as their currency, which is essentially controlled by France and has been described as a form of monetary colonialism. Participating states have to deposit half their foreign exchange reserves with the French Treasury, and if they want to withdraw above a certain amount in a single year, they have to borrow from France. The point we're making is that, while a monetary union or common currency probably isn't immediately forthcoming, the idea is a way of expressing opposition to France's CFA franc. There are over 1.5 million non-profit organisations in the US, and millions more around the world. So how do you know which ones make the biggest impact with your donations? GiveWell was founded to help donors with that exact question. They spend tens of thousands of hours poring over independent studies and charity data to help donors direct their funds to evidence-based organisations that are saving and improving lives. In fact, GiveWell has now spent over 15 years researching charitable organisations and only directs funding to a few of the highest impact opportunities they've found. That's things like vitamin A supplements, which cost as little as $1 to deliver, but can reduce vitamin A deficiency in children, thus improving mortality rates. Together, over 100,000 donors have used GiveWell to donate more than $1 billion. Rigorous evidence suggests that these donations will save over 150,000 lives and improve the lives of millions more. In fact, in 2019, when we sold TLDR-branded pin badges for charity, we turned to GiveWell to help select the charities we donated to, ensuring the maximum impact of our giving. GiveWell wants as many donors as possible to make informed decisions about high-impact giving. As such, you can find all their research and recommendations on their site for free. You can make tax-deductible donations to their recommended funds or charities, and GiveWell doesn't take a cut. Plus, if you've never donated to GiveWell's recommended charities before, you can have your donation matched up to $100 before the end of the year, as long as matching funds last. To claim your match, go to givewell.org, pick YouTube and enter TLDR News at checkout. Do make sure they know that you heard about GiveWell from TLDR News in order to get your donation matched. Again, that's givewell.org to donate or find out more.